Hello and welcome to finally a video that is a little bit different than my usual chatty get ready with me's or my monthly roundup and empties. This is a video that I've been looking forward to making already for a few months, but I was not postponing, but I was really trying to give every eyeshadow formula its best chance before I come here and rank it. So today I'm going to be ranking luxury eyeshadow formulas. But before we get into any of that, I wanted to let you know that this is actually going to be a collaboration video, and it is going to be a collaboration video with my wonderful, smart, sassy friend Claudia here on YouTube. I think you've heard me mention Claudia so many times that by now probably most of you are aware of her and her channel. But Claudia operates the BoB mindset channel, so the best of the best mindset. I can't really say that I remember exactly how Claudia and I met and how long ago that was. I want to say that it's been quite a few years now, and my best guess is that we've met through my Pat McGrath content, because I know that she also really enjoys Pat McGrath's makeup line and has a lot of admiration for Pat McGrath as a makeup artist. But we've known each other for a really long time, and for the longest time I followed her on Instagram. And until recently, or like fairly recently, maybe already now about a year, she only had an Instagram account, and she, like I said, as of about a year ago, also has her YouTube channel. Obviously, I'm going to link her YouTube channel in the description box below, and you should definitely go check out her video. I'm going to touch upon that in a little bit, but the reason I've loved Claudia's content so much is, you know how I can be like relatively critical and sassy in my opinion. I feel like Claudia can take it to a whole new level, especially when it comes to Pat McGrath Labs. If you thought I could be critical of Pat, no honey, you have no idea what you're talking about, because you should go and check out Claudia. I think she can be really like much more objective than I am. I try to make it clear, and especially on my Instagram I've even like put a little a sentence in my profile, you know, description, that I have a soft spot for Pat McGrath makeup. So a lot of the things I say might be mellowed down by the fact that I just love the brand so much. But I think Claudia doesn't really have that. I think Claudia will tell you exactly what it is, and she will remain super critical no matter what. And that is the reason I've always really enjoyed her content, both on Instagram and on YouTube. So the whole idea behind her channel is that we can enjoy luxury makeup, we can spend money on luxury makeup, but we also need to be very critical of what we bring into our collection so that they remain, you know, smart and curated and truly enjoyed. And I really love that kind of mindset. I try to ascribe to that kind of mindset. I really try to, you know, be critical, and I think that I do manage to strike a little bit of like a golden middle when it comes to the makeup that I buy. If you look at my channel, you will see that I'm not someone who buys a lot of new things. I like to be very, very critical what comes in, not because I have any judgment for people who do. More power to them, they can do whatever the fuck they want. I get a lot of anxiety if my collection starts to overflow and I don't know where to start, and I feel like I'm not giving enough attention to everything that is in my drawers here. So I really enjoy Claudia's mindset, and I really love the way her mind works. I really love how like critical but so on the spot she can be, and she's so insightful when it comes to formulas and textures and the logic behind it, and the even the ingredients behind it. I really love that. Claudia is for sure team like logic and science, and I am all about logic and science. Anyway, I've talked a lot about Claudia, so we have decided to do this video together because obviously we have this shared passion for luxury eyeshadows. Now we're going to do this a little bit differently though, because we talked about doing the video and then ranking the luxury eyeshadow formulas that we have tried. I think she's going to rank the formulas that she's tried in 2023 only, and she is going to include, for example, Pat McGrath Labs. I'm going to do this a little bit differently because I have a slightly different like idea for this video. I want to rank luxury eyeshadow formulas that I have tried, period. And it happens to be that I've tried most of them in 2023, so I feel like that really fits the theme. However, I am not going to include stuff like Natasha Denona and Pat McGrath Labs, because to me they are a completely different category when I think of like the classics. So I'm going to talk about the classic luxury brands. I'm not going to talk about Lisa Eldridge, Pat McGrath. I'm not going to talk about Natasha Denona either, because while they fit the category of luxury eyeshadow formulas, which is why Claudia is going to talk about them, I wanted to really focus on the classic luxury brands, because I've been so intrigued and so pleasantly surprised by what the luxury brands have been doing, especially in the last few years with their eyeshadows, that I figured I would like to sit here and talk about the pros, the cons, what I enjoy the most, why, that kind of thing, and hopefully you find that helpful. A little caveat to this video will be that because I don't really buy everything that's released on the market, I don't have it all. So for example, I know that Hermes, Prada, what else? Paco Rabanne have all come with eyeshadows in the past couple of months. I don't have those. So unfortunately, I don't even have Chanel eyeshadows to talk about. So it will not be a very comprehensive ranking. It will be a ranking of the formulas that I have in my collection. But I think that's where it will be very valuable for you to check out Claudia's video, because I do believe she has tried more of these. I think she has a longer history of buying luxury eyeshadows. I got into it relatively recently by comparison, only in like the last 2 years or so. So I do think she has more experience, more brands, and more insights to share with you. But I hope that, you know, my insights and my ranking will still be useful to you. So without any further chatting, let's get into the ranking. I'm going to do this as usual with my rankings in an ascending order, and I'm going to start with the luxury eyeshadow formula that to me ranks the lowest. And so in the last position, in the 6th place, and this is probably going to be very controversial, but I'm going to explain myself, I am going to rank the YSL Quad that I purchased over the summer. This is in the shade Casaba Spices. As I was saying, Casaba Spices, I'm so sorry. Some of the, you know, slime from that cup still finds its way out, and in the most inconvenient of moments. But anyway, Casaba Spices. This is the quad in question. Now, another thing that I want to say is I'm ranking these, but to be fair with you, I don't know that there's really one that I can really say, like, trash completely. Like, I can't trash any of these. They're all really, really good. They're just a different level of good, and there are different things about them that I enjoy more or less. I wanted to say that in particular because when it comes to this YSL Quad, and the fact that I am ranking it last, I don't want it to come across as I don't like the formula or there's something bad about the formula. Not at all the case. First of all, I think YSL has absolutely killed it with their outer packaging, because I do think that in terms of like interesting, zhuzhed up, modern, but still like classic and recognizable in terms of like the fashion house behind it, YSL has done the best job. Like A for effort, 10 out of 10. When it comes to the formulas that are present in this little quad, I also can't say absolutely anything bad about them. So the quad that I have, and maybe that is really the problem, this quad has only 2 formulas in it. It has 3 mattes and one of those like toppery sparkly type shades. So that's this one over here. And the problem that I have with this quad is that while I like these textures separately, I don't like them together. Like, for the longest time, I've been here trying to figure out why everyone else loves these quads and what the fuck my problem is. Why am I being the weird one out thinking that these are just okay? And it finally dawned on me a couple of days ago when I was doing my makeup with the ones that I enjoy more. And the fact is that when you have a toppery, like sparkly shade like this, first of all, this is a little bit more subtle than some of the other ones, but that's not even the problem. When you have a texture like this, I'm sorry, you're not going to see anything, so I don't really know why I'm even doing that, but I don't really want to swatch things much. I want to talk about the formulas. So you have these beautiful matte eyeshadows, and they are a truly fabulous formula, and they're something new, because these are these like creamy types of formulas that are pressed into the pan, a little bit like the new Pat McGrath Queen formulas, a little bit like even like Lisa Eldridge. Like, they're slightly different from each other, but they all have this like common thread through the formula that it's a little bit like a cream to powder. Now, these are more on the powder side. To me, these are actually quite powdery, but they are soft, they look very flattering on the lids, they're beautifully blendable. However, when I try to layer a shadow like this over mattes, I feel like it's a clash of 2 completely different textures. So unless you wet this eyeshadow, it's just going to fly away if you put it over a matte eyeshadow. So you're going to put it over this matte, it will not stick, it will fly away, and probably by the end of the day you're just going to have an all matte look. if you wet it, you do create a really beautiful effect with it. I have done a look with this quad and I actually really liked the look. I think a lot of you really also liked the look. If I don't forget, I'm going to link the video up here for you so that you can see this quad in action. But the problem for me is that I am missing texture in here that sort of bridges the mattes and this sparkly topper, because I don't like to mix these kind of textures together. And that might be just an issue because I purchased this specific quad. I think there is another quad in the mix, the one that everyone raves about, Storados, the cooler toned one, where you do have a satin formula, which sort of gives you more options and it bridges between the mattes and the sparkly topper shade. But mine doesn't, and not all of them do. And I want different textures, I want the different textures to work together. And I think that is the biggest reason why something is preventing me from falling in love with these YSL quads, and I think that is the reason. But there's really nothing negative I can say about the formula of these. The formula, the presentation, 10 out of 10. It's just that for me, it doesn't work as a whole, and that is why I'm ranking it last. At the 5th position, we've got a new entry, and one that I was a little bit hesitant whether to include, because I thought, does this belong with Pat McGrath, Lisa Eldridge and Natasha Denona, or does this belong with the classic luxury brands? I'm talking about Bobbi Brown. I thought, because Bobbi Brown's been around for a very long time and I feel like it predates all of these other brands that I mentioned, I felt like it's justified to include them in here. Now, you're probably surprised why I'm ranking this relatively low, considering that it contains my favorite texture of all time, and those are the Blitz and VR type shades from Pat McGrath Labs. So I received this as an extremely generous gift from one of you guys who shipped it over to me from Canada. And I've been intrigued by the formula of these Bobbi Brown eyeshadows ever since I discovered her Luxe eyeshadow singles. I bought one over the summer. Let me quickly show you. So I bought this shade over the summer. This is the shade Heat Ray. And I talked about how I finally found an one-on-one 100% dupe for the VR and Blitz shades from Pat McGrath Labs. I hadn't expected that anyone else really does that kind of formula, but lo and behold, Bobbi Brown's actually been doing it for a while, possibly even as long as or even longer than Pat McGrath Labs, and I'm pretty sure they come from the same lab because these are also made in Italy. The reason I'm ranking this a little bit lower again has to do with the specific palette that I have, and also with the fact that while I love these textures, they are the best textures out there. They're nothing new, you know, they're nothing exciting. I got excited about these luxury brands because I saw them doing something new, something unexpected, and something that surpassed my expectations. This is gorgeous, but because I already had like very high expectations for it, it didn't really surpass them. And a lot has to do again with the drawbacks of this palette. So first of all, there are several shades in here that I consider to be so similar to each other that they're like redundant and unnecessary. But most of all, there was an attempt here to make mattes in this baked formula. So this shade here and this shade here are mattes that come in that beautiful baked formula. You would think in theory a fabulous idea. However, unfortunately, in practice, these two eyeshadows, I find them really disappointing. There's hardly any pigment coming off, and they are so similar in tone, and they are only really going to work for people of an extremely light skin tone. So I'm not a huge fan of that. I feel like there was an attempt here to do something that is a little bit more versatile, but it was a failed attempt. And if these two eyeshadows had been something that once again surpassed my expectations, because Pat hasn't really done this kind of texture in a matte formula. Has she? No, not really in a matte formula. She has those like satiny type shadows that she had included in the Bridgerton palettes that were baked and not like toppery Blitz VR kind of shades. But these are mattes. And I was like, oh my gosh, it would have been so cool if Bobbi Brown had done a good job with these, because these would have just added an extra layer of, you know, awesome and versatility to an already stellar formula and a stellar, you know, arrangement of colors and eyeshadows. But unfortunately, with this specific palette and with these specific two shades, I can't really give it an A because it's not an A. It's fine, but I know these formulas, I love these formulas, so they're nothing new, and the two that are new to me are kind of a disappointment. So that's the reason that I'm ranking Bobbi Brown a little bit lower. But that's not to say that those luxe eyeshadows that she's doing are not absolutely fabulous. So in the fourth position we have Dior, and more specifically their classic queens, the ones that are, you know, part of their core collection, the ones that have been, I think, around for a really long time. I really like these. I was very pleasantly surprised. The shade that I have is soft cashmere. I only have soft cashmere. I haven't really tried any of their other queens, so I only have experience with this specific queen. But this specific queen really surpassed my expectations, and what I really love about it is that you're getting different textures in here. First of all, the tones of these are gorgeous. Second of all, you get such a nice variety of textures. So this middle shade here is your classic baked gelée. This shade here is a beautiful, like, baked impactful metallic. This one here is more of your like classic baked satin. This one is a classic baked matte, and this one is an attempt at a topper shade. Now I don't want to be too judgmental of the topper shade, because this is a topper shade by Dior, made for people who are going to enjoy Dior, and people who enjoy Dior are probably people who don't necessarily want to have a bliss shade on their lids. So I don't want to be too judgmental of that, and I do think it's really cool that they've included something like this. On me and on my eyes, this is more of like almost like a finishing powder with like the tiniest amount of sparkle to it. But it does give a very nice glimmer, and this metallic is truly beautiful. The matte eyeshadow blends effortlessly. All of these look so beautiful on the lid. I love that you have these different tones of eyeshadows in here. You have these like really cool toned browns. You have this more like neutral, deeper brown, so you can really play around with the depth. It gives you a lot of versatility, and I really enjoy that they've also included this baked gelée brown, which is in a slightly different tone. These are really solid eyeshadows, and I would definitely rank them higher if it weren't for the fact that there are just luxury eyeshadow formulas out there that I enjoy more. And one thing that I don't like about Dior is that they apparently go through like cycles where they reformulate their eyeshadows, and I know for a fact that the new soft cashmere, first of all, is not identical in terms of the colors, and second of all, it's not identical in terms of the formula. And I find that kind of, you know, unreliability not a great feature for a luxury eyeshadow formula. Like, how can you recommend something if, you know, you have the old formula and then they go and buy the new formula and they're like, well, this is not the same eyeshadow. So I want to give a heads up that I love this formula. I think it's an excellent formula, but this is the older one. I don't know what the new one is about, and I've heard some mixed feelings on it. At position number 3, probably to no one's surprise, I'm going to rank the Wet and Dry formula from Tom Ford. I have 2 of his quads, and they're both in the Wet and Dry formula, and I want to say that the formula that I'm ranking in the 3rd position, to reiterate again, is the Wet and Dry. Not his other formulas. I don't know his cream formula. I did not like his regular formula. I did purchase a quad from him a while ago, which was in his regular like metallic and like toppery kind formula. I also don't have any of the like super sparkly ones. He has a like whole range of different formulas in his quads. So when you go out to purchase it, you really have to be careful what exactly you are getting. But the one that I specifically am talking about is the Wet and Dry. And the Wet and Dry formula is this beautiful baked gelée formula that is just beautiful, effortless, flawless on the skin. I love everything about these eyeshadows. Now you're probably wondering, if you love these eyeshadows so much, why are you ranking them in the 3rd position? Because that's still, you know, not the best of the best. Now the reason I'm ranking the Wet and Dry formula a little bit lower than some of the other ones is because of the lack of versatility in terms of the finishes. These are gorgeous, but they're all the same finish. All of them. There's no different types of like formulas in here. They're all just beautiful baked gelée. They're like very smooth on the lid, but they're not like a variety of like slightly matte leaning, more sparkly leaning. They all are the type of formula that will look a little bit more satin if you apply it dry, and it will look a bit more sheeny and metallic if you apply it wet. There's not going to be like intense sparkles, there isn't going to be any sort of like versatility in what you can do. So while this is a solid, reliable, excellent formula, and I cannot recommend it enough, it's just like the 4 eyeshadows are all the same. What I do love doing with these eyeshadows, and there's something I love doing with a lot of these luxury eyeshadows, is that I like to use them all over my lids, and then I like to put something a little bit sparkly over top. And what I love about these textures is that because they are so elegant and so flattering on the lid and so lightweight, they work beautifully with a lot of other types of textures. So that's something also to mention about the wet and dry formula. The wet and dry formula looks flawless on its own, but it also looks really stunning when you use it to layer with other types of textures. So for example, if you were to take one of those like Bobbi Brown VR Blitz Astral type shades to layer it over these types of textures, they will look glorious together. At position number 2, again, is going to be a huge surprise and probably something that people will consider as a little bit controversial, but my second favorite formula out there currently from a luxury brand, and I don't know for how long these have been around. Possibly they've been around for a while and I just discovered them recently, but they have been, like I said, an absolute revelation. Something that not only surpassed my expectations, it just blew my mind. And I know that that's a very like dramatic thing to say, but that's really how I felt about this formula. So these are the Lancome Queens. I've talked about this one in particular because it is the only one that I currently have. This is the shade Bronze Absolute number 17. I purchased this over the summer sort of on a whim after swatching it in store because I thought the formula was very interesting to the touch, and I really loved the array and the arrangement of the colors. Maybe an important detail to mention here is that Lisa Eldridge is the creative director for Lancome makeup, so you can definitely tell that she has a finger in creating these formulas because some of them feel very similar to what's present in her own makeup line. It's not the same, I don't even think they're made in the same country, like a lab in the same country, but they feel very similar to each other. And oh my gosh, are they stunning! Elegant, flawless, like a little filter on your lids. So this specific quint has 2 types of formulas in it, I want to say. You have these 2 mattes over here, and then you have the more like satiny metallic type formulas. There isn't a single shade in here that's like highly sparkly. I think some of these quints have shadows that are a bit more of like topper kind, but most of them either have a lot of mattes and like one satin, or they are heavy on the satins and they have like one matte. I don't know. I have swatched some of the other ones in store. I have my eye on one more of these eventually, but I'm trying to be reasonable here and not go out and buy something from a range just because I love the formula so much. It also needs to make sense with the color story. But these are so elegant on the lid. I don't know how to explain them. They're not going to be mind-blowingly metallic, they're not going to be mind-blowingly sparkly, but there is something so chic about the way they look on the lids. The mattes in particular are stunning. They basically apply on your lids and then they filter your lids. If you have any sort of like imperfections on your lids, I think they're going to be filtered out by the formula of these eyeshadows. And then the metallic eyeshadows, they're very subtle, they're very satin on the lid. You can amp them up if you apply them over a glitter glue or you wet them a little bit. But again, because they work so well with applying other things over top of them, I just love how versatile they are. I love that you have 2 different formulas here. I love that you can play around with the types of looks that you create specifically with this color story, but it is really the formula and how beautifully like elevated it looks on the lid. I cannot describe this. I think you need to try it for yourself to decide how you feel about this formula, but personally I have been so pleasantly surprised by Lancome that I feel like just because of how they blew my mind with their gorgeous formula, I'm ranking them second. I think that a lot of this is like up for debate in terms of which formula really is better. Like Objectively speaking, the wet and dry formula maybe is better than the one that's present in the Lancome Queens, but like I said, you only get the one texture with the wet and dry, whereas here you get different textures and they are also really elegant on the lid. And finally, for the long-term Mariam fans out there, it will be no surprise whatsoever that my absolute number one, and this is not up for even for debate, there is not a single speck of doubt in here that these are going to be the best of the best for me, and these are the Guerlain Ombre G Quads. So I dipped my toes into those last year serendipitously. They were just released like a couple of months prior to the summer of last year, and I had heard about them, but I was like, yeah, Guerlain, whatever. And then I went in store and I was sort of like browsing through the store. I saw that these were already on display and I thought, okay, I'm going to swatch them just to see what the big deal is all about. And then I swatched them, and again I had the same exact reaction as with the Lancome Queens. I thought, oh, well, hello, who are you and what's this? This is nothing like what I expected. This surpasses all of my expectations. So then I went home and I was like, maybe I want to buy one of these. Now, I have a total of 4 of these by now, a year and something later. I have now 4 of these quads. I cannot show you all 4 of them because I've currently lent 2 of my Ombre G quads to one of my friends from work, and I think she's having an absolute blast with them. But I want to again be very clear. This is the core line of the Ombre G formula from Guerlain. So I'm not talking about their newer releases because unfortunately their newer releases have been a different formula. So the formula that I fell in love with and I adore is their baked formula. So these 4 eyeshadows are baked. And they, I think the core line has 6 quads in there. There were some limited edition ones that were also in the baked formula, but I think the last limited edition one that was still in the baked formula was the denim one that came out towards like the spring summertime of this past year. But their fall release and their current holiday release, they're all just regular matte and like satin shimmers. They're beautiful formulas, but they are not this stunning baked formula. So why do I rank these the highest? Why are they better than Tom Ford? Why are they better than Bobbi Brown? Why are they better than Lancome? So they're very similar to the Blitz and VR Astral type shades from Pat McGrath Labs, but they are more lightweight on the lid. They're a little bit sheerer on the lid, and they look stunning on the lids. Okay, they have the exact same, you know, properties as the Tom Ford ones or the baked Bobbi Brown ones. They have this beautiful, the Lancome ones, they all have this like beautiful like filtering effect on your lid. They will de-age you basically. But what I love about these queens, and you have to keep in mind that that's not the case for all of these, not queens, quads, I'm sorry, is that they contain different types of textures. So I'm really happy that I have Metal Butterfly here to show you, because the other one that I have at home now is Exotic Orchid, and that one doesn't have all the textures. So the textures that you get with these quads are sparkly, shiny, toppery type formula, a satin formula, and a matte formula, and they are all beautiful in their own way. So let me first talk about the matte formula, because I think that one was the one that surprised me the most. So specifically in Metal Butterfly, we're talking about this eyeshadow over here, and in like all of their quads, I want to say the darkest shade is the one that has this specific formula. I find it very hard to describe this formula, but imagine that it's a bit like latexy clay, like hard pressed latexy clay type of texture, and it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. What I love about this formula is how it goes on the lids, how effortless it blends out. It just looks so flawless on your lids. There's not a speck of powder in here, so you're not going to get any sort of fallout. But this is the kind of formula that will it's not instant gratification. It's not instant pigmentation. You need to build this up, and it may never be the darkest brown or the darkest black that you've ever tried. So you really need to be aware of that when I talk about this formula, but that's not what I want from them. I want them to be buildable. I want them to be a little bit darker if I want them to. I want them to be a little bit sheerer if that's my preference for the day. So for example, today I have this brown shade blended all over my lid, a little bit more intense towards the lash line, and then blended out in my crease. Done in about 5 seconds. So you also need to have the right tools for this. That's another thing I want to mention. This eyeshadow is not going to work if you're going to use a synthetic brush. You need a good, dense, natural bristle brush. Personally, I was using the Worker Pro from Sonia G, but you know, you need something that is, I think, natural hair and not synthetic, because synthetic is not going to pick this guy up. But I love this formula. Then you have these like more satiny type formulas, and in Exotic Orchid, for example, the drawback is that you're getting 3 of these. So all of these 3 shades here are in their more satin formula. So this is a formula that's going to give you like the lightest kiss of sheen, but it's not going to be metallic and it's not going to be sparkly. And what I love about that texture is how easy it is to pop on your lids, blend it out, and then if you want to apply something like a topper shade over top, it looks like the two are melted together in perfect harmony. And I forgot to mention that that's what I think about all of these formulas in here, but more specifically the matte and the satins. And what I have today, for example, on over top of this brown are 2 liquid eyeshadows, one from Pat and one from Lisa Eldridge. It wasn't really necessary, but I was just feeling a little bit extra, so I put both of them because I wanted to have both brown and green sparkles on my lids. But anyway, that's besides the point. And then the final formula that you have in here is this more sparkly one, like cooler toned gold, and in Exotic Orchid you have this like warmer toned gold. And I don't think, again, you're going to be able to see how beautiful these eyeshadows are unless you put them on your lids. They are like a VR type formula from Pat McGrath, but without the steroids. Like this eyeshadow, for example, very much reminds me of the Baked Gold in Divine Rose 2, but the Baked Gold in Divine Rose 2 is just intense, more intense on every level. It is just a less amped version, more, you know, subtle version of those eyeshadows from Pat McGrath Labs, but they're still beautifully sparkly, both of these. And I probably said elegant about 50 times in this video, or maybe upwards of 50 times, but these are so elegant. They look so beautiful on the lid. I can almost guarantee that you're going to get only compliments and you're going to feel so good about yourself when you wear this formula. And the reason I'm ranking this above, for example, the Tom Ford formula, is that versatility. With Tom Ford, I think you're basically getting something that's like a cross between the Blitz and the VR, whereas here, obviously depending on the quad that you pick up, you are getting 3 different textures, all in that beautiful baked formula. And I cannot tell you how much I have been enjoying these Guerlain quads, obviously because I have 4 of them now. So they rank first for me, and there's really no question that they are the best out there right now for me personally in terms of luxury eyeshadows. Of course, since I haven't tried them all, I can't really tell with certainty, but from what I have seen, I don't think I would like the Hermes, I don't think I would be blown away by the Prada, and I don't think I would be blown away by the Rabanne. So I think I've got like a pretty good variety of the different textures. I would be curious to try Chanel, but I think Chanel can be a little bit of a hit and miss with their textures. I would eventually like to try them, but I also think they do very different types of textures. Sometimes they're baked gelée and sometimes they're like the baked dome formula, so there's a lot of variety in there as well. But out of the 6 formulas that I consider classic luxury brands out there, Guerlain is my absolute BoB. Alright y'all, I think that we can hereby wrap up this video. I'm very curious if you have tried these brands, how you would rank them and what would be your favorite and your reasoning behind it. I'm extremely curious to watch Claudia's video because I have a teeny tiny suspicion that maybe Guerlain would be her best of the best as well, but I'm not completely sure. So I'm just very excited to watch her video. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts. I hope that this was also somewhat helpful for you in terms of like a guide of the different types of textures and what you can expect of them. Yeah, basically I had a lot of fun ranking these. I've had a lot of fun just like exploring all these different types of textures. I just think it's so much fun when brands start to do something new, and like I said, one of the biggest reasons that I've enjoyed this journey so much is just how pleasantly surprised I've been at how luxury brands have really like stepped up their game in order to keep up with what's going on with the rest of the makeup world out there and the industry, because the industry is moving with a very fast pace, and I feel like for the longest time the luxury brands weren't really keeping up, and I am so loving how they are back in the game, back to, you know, be on the map. Really enjoyable to watch and to experience. Anyway, I've rambled more than enough for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!